Hello and welcome to my journey with books. My name is Jeff, and we finally finished Gone and the Flying Monkeys. For some reason, I was holding back reading this book, and it's not because I didn't want to read it, just because up until the point where I'd read it, I had a lot of things I needed to sit down and think about, and that just left me with this need to not read until I sorted out some issues because the story follows Gona and his wife, Karembo, as I feel they're navigating through marriage. Now, the problem is this marriage is primarily centered on Gona's feelings and the people who are around him, and Karembo receives the backlash of everything that doesn't happen right in the marriage. And the way the author decides to write a story is it's not in the normal Kenyan trope where you'd have details about what would happen every single moment or the descriptions were like too in depth. She decided to do a different approach to the whole thing, and I felt like the story was more poetic and trying to really focus on what she wanted to focus on. And as I was reading it, I just finished reading the last few chapters a few seconds ago, so I have a lot of stuff fresh in my mind. I felt like I would love maybe they collaborate with someone else and someone else write Gona's view of what the marriage was like or what traumatic experience led him to be the way he was. Because there's a lot of things that are happening I don't think that should be possible in a marriage. I know they exist, but maybe I'm choosing to be naive because of growing in a setup where it's different from what I just read. And what I just read is painful to think about. Um, Again, we just have to echo to the like human mind because how you endure all that as a lady and as a guy to inflict that kind of traumatic pain to someone else. I'm not saying that I haven't. I feel like if you call all of my exes, some of them would have some very descriptive notions as to why the relationship ended. But at the same time, both of us would have had made like certain decisions that led to that, initial breakup of the relationship. And here, I feel like both sides needed to be explained, and the author did uh, her best in that regard. She rooted it with his influence of wanting attention and needing to control the narrative of everything that happened in his life and outside his life, and that included her, who was part of his life. And just, all I'm saying is, I, it left me with a lot to think about, because we have the initial attraction to a lady and approaching them, and then deciding to be with them, and then realizing that their bodies will change after they give birth to your child. And then you also have to decide to love them after. And they will wake up one day and realize this is not the body they had a few years ago. Maybe it spans in less than 9 months and they realize, oh, wait, I had a flatter stomach. I had these features that were specific to me, but now they're fading away because time is going on and I chose to give birth. And now they're raising a human being who is indifferent to whatever is happening to her body and just wants to be taken care of for its own survival. And as a man, you have to stay there and love them, but sometimes you don't. Some of the men don't do that, and I just this was very specific to me, and I was like, how well would I be able to go through that? Not saying I'll have issues, but I just had to think about it. This is one of the reasons why I stopped for a minute. And you go on, and now it's a matter of one of you has to stop doing what they were doing in terms of their career. Mostly the lady does that, and come back and take care of the child. in the instance where none of you live, you have a nanny take bringing the child up, and that just brings a lot of complications later. Maybe they may be of a different tribe than your natural setup that you had. Maybe both of you are from the same tribe or from different tribes, and they are from another totally different tribe. So the child would be learning something totally different. And there's a lot to think about. All I'm saying is, I hope no one goes through what Karimba went through. And there are some scenes where it's described, and I feel like even if it's all about trying to do your best, sometimes you just have to just make up your mind and leave. Just have to make up your mind and leave, because I mean, she eventually did leave, eventually, but it took too long. According to it, just took too long to actually leave, because when sex is termed as a conjugal right, then you have to get yourself out of that picture, because clearly something is wrong. You know, it's something is wrong there. Anyway, all I'm saying is, get yourself a copy of this book, read it. I'm actually gonna um I really wanna sit down with a couple of people. I mean, like maybe two ladies, two gents who have read this book, and we can discuss this book in depth, because I feel like, apart from my moral standpoint of what I know and what should be, I can't really define this in terms of statistics, because there's a line where the author says that living a marriage is not as dramatic as people term it to be. And I feel like in our African heritage, it is that dramatic to actually divorce someone. But as you grow up, you start to realize that some other things, apart from people talking about them behind your back, really don't have that negative or any impact on your life after, until it does. So for her, leaving the marriage was more of, what am I doing after this? Where am I going? How am I going to raise my child? And yeah, we're done with this book, but we now have a lot to think about in terms of life and relationships, and how we want to handle our partners. And I feel like that is what a good book entails. It should allow you to think about life, you know? And the conclusion of the book is something relatively understandable, in terms of, really, sometimes things don't go the way you expect. The villain doesn't always get justice, and it's good that we normalize that. It's not always that you expect that someone else pays for their crimes, you know? So I think she really did a good job with this. From the illustrations, can we actually talk about the illustrations? These are good. And then we have like at the beginning of every chapter, there is an illustration, like there's some drawing at the beginning of every chapter, and they're actually good. I would love to know if she actually commissioned people to draw this, or was it like AI generated or something, because I feel like authors, especially authors who have illustrations, should not be using AI, at least in Kenya, should like commission an artist, an upcoming artist, and help them grow their talent, or help it bloom in a way, because we have a lot of hungry artists out here who need to put their names out there, and it could be a channel for that. In a way, you've created a job for them and pushed their art outside, like their circle, into somewhere else, and they may open horizons higher than that. If this was done by someone else, I would really love to know. And again, I we have a lot to think about. Okay, we have a lot to think about. I'm trying to look. I read the author's note, but he didn't mention anyone. Uh, didn't mention anyone in particular. Yeah. So yeah, we really enjoyed this book. Thank you again, Miss Ruha, for the copy. I've enjoyed the book. Still need to discuss it a little bit more, but until then, get yourself a copy. Okay.